What are some cities in the world that are so full of crime that the name of the city is synonymous with crime? I ask because in the Batman movie with Michael Keaton, one of the lines was "To the world, the words Gotham City are synonymous with crime." This made me wonder if there are cities that are equated with having lots of crime. San Pedro Sula, Honduras. In '76 on a stopover, the smart I was traveling with asked a cop if it was true that all Chicago cops were crooked. Without missing a beat, the cop said, "Give me $10 and I'll tell you." Tijuana, Rio de Janeiro, and Detroit immediately come to mind. Mogadishu, Gary, Indiana. Mos Eisley, you will never find a more wretched hive of and villainy. Juarez, East St. Louis. Johannesburg in Africa. Baltimore and Camden. Vegas is super crime-ridden, but the casinos are able to pay the media enough to keep it lesser known. Shreveport, law, neutral face. Everyone wants to own Detroit because they heard jokes in 1980s movies, but today is Mardi Gras and I give you. Look up the stats on New Orleans. How have I not seen Albuquerque yet? Quick edit, I love ABQ. Had the opportunity to live there for a bit. It is rough in places though. Before I went to Venice, I was told by many people to wear clothes with zippered pockets. I didn't do so. Never had an issue. After I got back, I had people ask me if I had any issues with pickpockets. I, of course, said no. All I can say is be aware of your surroundings and the people around you. Detroit. Can't have in Detroit. If this thread has taught me anything else, it's that people don't know about Detroit anymore. Most dangerous chart https://www.armormax.com/blog/most dangerous cities in the world 2021 deadliest most violent / everyone sitting here banking relatively safe cities like SF, NY, and Chicago are cracking me up. And also make me think they've never spent a day in any of these cities, where you can generally walk anywhere and be fine. I'd love to see them try to walk somewhere at night in Caracas, Venezuela, Tijuana, Ciudad Juarez or Acapulco, Mexico, or San Pedro Sula, Honduras. And let's not forget South Africa, where kidnappings are basically a fact of life now. Source https://www.aliazera.com/amp/news/2022/12/28/ransom kidnappings add to Africa's crime woes. You're going to get a lot of answers of Chicago when the reality is places like Tuscaloosa, Alabama and St. Louis are far more crime-ridden and dangerous. Also, NYC is one of the safest larger cities in America. No one wants to watch a TV show about Tuscaloosa, so they make Chicago and NYC out to be crime havens. Stockton, California, don't know anything else about it other than very high crime levels. Ohio, which city? Yes, Washington, D.C. Especially in the congressional buildings. Stabbyville, New Orleans, Memphis, Flint. All the small towns in Middle America where people haven't opioid problems are far worse than big cities. There is safety in numbers in cities. When you find yourself broken down in an area, you are. When it happens in a city, you call an Uber. San Francisco specifically for window smashing. Chicago. I was born in Caracas and I have to make peace with the fact that I'll probably never be able to go back and visit safely. I was at a SPS hotel 10 years ago. I decided that I'd walk the half block to Dunkin' Donuts. The doorman asked that I walk along the curb so he could keep his rifle trained on me in case I was attacked. Reality or keep the guests inside? Didn't care. I skipped the donuts. Come to Chicago for the food. Stay, because you got murdered. Chicago is crazy like that. I've been like 5 times. I lived on the southeast side of Chicago for almost a decade and never experienced any crooked cops or crime. I lived in the 100s. Born and raised in Chicago. Not all cops are crooked. There's bad eggs for sure and we can't overlook that. I will say a lot. But don't say all. We are fighting stereotypes in 2023 for everyone, so be mindful and be a part of the change. Not all pit bulls are aggressive, not all women are the B word, Not all cops are crooked. Also, please don't get lost in Sao Paulo, just don't. Living in Asti, I don't consider Tijuana to be the most dangerous city in Mexico at all, not when Chihuahua, Sonora, and CDMX exist. Tijuana is actually quite tame compared to a lot of Mexico. Let's just say I've never been shot at in TJ, but I can't say the same for those other 3 states. I am a native Detroiter and kindly ask anyone to come check out the city or even read the subreddit for a change in perspective. It's by far my favorite city and no longer deserves to be synonymous with crime when it has so much to offer. Take him to Detroit. Yeah, I forgot Detroit. What about Gary, Indiana? One of my morbid icebreakers is to read the travel advisory to people. They usually don't believe me when I say the US government suggests you create a will, arrange for a hostage negotiator, and create a safe word so loved ones back home know you're still alive if you are kidnapped and held for ransom. The list goes on. https://travel.state.gov/content/travel-advisories/travel-advisory.html. It's synonymous with I will die if I enter that city for me. I love the Onion Atlas entry on Somalia, a forward-thinking post-apocalyptic nation. A super progressive nation. Somalia realizes that the future will not bring cutting-edge technology or widespread peace, but a hellscape of desolate, famine-infested ruins controlled by rival warlords fighting over the rotting corpse of 21st-century civilization. And they have embraced that future. https://www.internations.org/mogadishu-expats/guide/living-text=high%20 levels %20 of %20 poverty %20 resulting, frequent %20 outbreaks %20 of %20 tribal %20 violence. Greater than diseases such as acute watery diarrheal syndrome, cholera and polio are all prevalent in Somalia and its capital, and some reports indicate a rise in infection. Is it the acute watery diarrheal syndrome? You need law for there to be crime. As such, Mogadishu isn't a city of crime, but of anarchy. Gary isn't crime-ridden as much as it is just sad and abandoned. The block with the methadone clinic is the most popping block downtown. Should tell you all you need to know. I live in New Zealand and I've heard of this place. It's probably one of the most famous small towns on earth at this point. I went to college in El Paso and went to Juarez many times without any issues, but after moving away the city was a war zone with the cartel attacking the police on multiple occasions. I would probably go back now, but you couldn't have paid me enough to go during that time. Joburg is near the top of my list. I've heard anecdotes like I've lived here all my life and I've never felt in danger. Just mugged twice is all. Your city is so dangerous that a mugging feels safe? I'm a little surprised I had to scroll so far to see JHB listed. It's so unbelievably dangerous. I think everyone I know has been mugged at gunpoint and or had their house broken into at some point, including myself. My mother was killed in a carjacking, as was my friend's father. Another friend of mine was held hostage while her house was robbed, and someone I went to school with was shot dead in an argument, although in Alex, admittedly. SA has the worst unemployment crisis in the world and one of the most drastic socio-economic divides. It's like a perfect storm. It's actually crazy to me how people choose to live there when they have the option to move to a better city or country. I left when I was 16 to go to an overseas boarding school and never looked back. I went to Camden for the first time a few weeks ago. As we drove into town, there was a large digital sign at a shopping center that read, "Shoot basketballs, not people." Baltimore is only scary if you haven't traveled much outside of the US. Baltimore is relatively easy to navigate. It's safe in safe areas. Sketchy areas look sketchy. Normal people behaving like normal people are not generally at risk. I can't speak to Camden. Never been. Omar, come in. I've never had a problem here. Lots of homeless but they keep to themselves. I think the worst are the tourists. Also the casino guards will hand you to the bouncers out back if you cause any trouble in a club. You won't have a good night, but they want you. Also, don't cheat. The casinos don't take kindly that, and it will end very badly. They also talk to each other, so good luck playing anywhere outside of a gas station. Just got back from there today and we couldn't believe how bad it is out there now. I took a wrong turn about a mile off the end. I was genuinely scared that I was gonna get carjacked in my rental. 3 guys just walked out into the middle of the road, so I had to stop so I wouldn't run them over, and then few other guys started walking towards my car, so I bolted around them and got the out. Pickpocketing seems to be warned of for many mainland European countries. It's so cool in the D. I live in Metro Detroit, spend a lot of time in Detroit proper. It is a great city with a lot of potential, a lot of history. Detroit hustles harder. Love my city. Detroit isn't safe, but it isn't as bad as other places for sure. I've never had a problem, but as a local I know where to go and where to avoid. I was more nervous in Chicago than I ever have been in Detroit. There's developed country dangerous, and then there's developing country dangerous. Completely different standards. What's going on in Tuscaloosa? I live just outside of Northport and I know that the city is getting a little worse, but how bad is it? Plus, sensationalist media can't be outraged when it's either a red city or in a red state, so your Chicagos and New Yorks will be shot on disproportionately and erroneously. Right. Asked my friend in Memphis why his neighbors shoot fireworks so often. Those aren't fireworks. What a dog to the world. Flint is just synonymous with lead and pooping on the street. Chicago's violent crime rate per capita is not even top 10 in the USA. There's even a smaller city in central Illinois with a much higher crime rate, Peoria. https://www.gbsnews.com/pictures/map deadliest US cities/60/ I live here and can confirm this is true. Cops are nowhere near as crooked as the politicians, though. Been going for summers since I was a kid and I too never experienced any issues. My hometown of Wichita, Kansas has a higher rate than Chicago. It's just a big city has more people to be a-holes to each other and it all gets reported on. Nobody cares when a methie stabs another methie to death in rural Alabama. All cops are beneficiaries of a legal and political structure that systematically shields them from accountability. I knew a family that moved to California from SP. Their stories were outrageous. SP sounds like a city straight out of a dystopian sci-fi. Yes, I'm surprised he picked Rio. Yes, it has a lot of crime, but compared to SP, grew up in the area, the whole Detroit is super dangerous meme is about 20 years out of date. It's got a lot of problems, but it's not RoboCop's stomping ground anymore. How many cities have you lived in that Detroit is your favorite? DI from Detroit. I can show anyone how fun the city is, but yes, don't just wonder if you don't know the city. Detroit has a lot of high-end restaurants, venues, etc. Our crime stats are terrible though. Both of them are synonymous with crime because of how they were in the 1990s, but neither of them really deserve that reputation anymore. Yes, there's a ton of urban decay, but not really all that much gang activity anymore. In 2022, Indianapolis had a higher homicide rate than Gary. That is wild. That said, why would anyone travel here voluntarily? It says to leave DNA samples in case your family needs them. Travel advice: don't. If anyone here wants a laugh, give the wiki travel page for Mogadishu or Somalia in general a read. I have only ever driven through Indiana, but it all feels depressing. I'm sure I just haven't seen the right places. But the houses I can see are falling apart. Indianapolis felt like one giant car dealership peppered with fast food. Basically, like a lot of small towns in Middle America, it used to be a bustling area with manufacturing plants that provided a lot of jobs and money for the area. But, like most of these towns, the factories and plants were closed down and moved to foreign countries, and the commerce of the area died. As the poverty in the area grew, so did crime. Edit. In 1994 Gary was literally the capital of the US. Lol, I just think of the song from The Music Man when I think of Gary, Indiana. I'm from Detroit and know a guy who moved to Gary, Indiana, and we were all like, careful out there, buddy. I lived in Joburg for 10 years and I never met one single person that felt safe. Everyone is on alert all the time, including just sitting at home. Joburg is the only place I've seen where they put an electric fence around a fence to warn you that the inner fence is _lethal_. Most of the people that say, I've lived here all my life and never felt in danger, also have barbed wire fences surrounding their house with elaborate security systems and enough armed firepower for a small army.